we continue. Now we discuss fear, and it is our pleasure to announce that this will be the final lesson on the emotional body.
Why is it your pleasure to announce?
Because we are happy with our work.
It's beautiful. And we can go further and further into these as well.
And that leads us to what we say next. Expectations of what is to come. The reason why we are ending the emotional body is because we have brought you exactly where you need to be. The foundation has been set. The next set of lessons will be true will. But there is a requirement. And this is your choice. The purpose of these lessons was to get you from a state of, I can't change anything, to changing the perspective of, wait, what about this? And being able to see with clarity the foundation set before you and what will resolve it. The next step is not going to be us pointing fingers at the moon and droning on about it. You must be within the energy to understand the lessons of true will. You must have some experience, excuse the pun, of that state. So the requirement is the expectations we set in the previous lesson. Do you have to? Certainly not. Will you choose to? Because the requirement for true will is that you say yes, not because we are demanding it, but because it would be a waste of time to give a lesson on that which you have no experience in. It would be just as helpful as reading you a Dr. Seuss book for an hour. Do you see our point?
Mm-hmm.
And so, this set of lessons or lectures will continue during our son's break, which would be July and August. Somewhere within there, we will look at meeting you there with experience from the meditation.
Mm-hmm.
So the focus in between this, our son had been perceiving of doing both meetings. The lessons and the conversation with Theial. And the truth of the matter is he doesn't have the energy for both.
So instead of doing them twice a week, just do blocks of these major lessons and then in between do follow-up discussions?
Correct.
Okay.
At this point in time going forward, the focus will be on the conversation part and including Facebook Live to truly spice things up and have some fun with it. We plan on it. We are looking forward to it.
And encourage him to really push me to help in any way for the video stream. He doesn't have to do all that alone.
We will.
Okay.
And in this, let us discuss that. He thinks he is busy now. He is going to be much busier with the next several shows. And so you pushing him to accept the 4 to 6 week delivery time is good. He will need it to maintain sanity. It is a good thing to be too busy to make your product, to have to include a wait time, like it or lump it, because I will get 2 more orders than wasting my time talking to you about I want it now.
Because, honey, there are restaurants with over a year waiting.
And when you are good at what you do, you get that luxury.
Mm-hmm.
And he is. And so things will be changing and metamorphosing there for him. But if he thinks he's busy now, wait. This is the calm before the storm. And so,
is there anything I can do to help him during the storm?
we were just getting to that.
Oh, okay.
And he had already made up his mind to not answer you when you asked him about setting boundaries and rules, about what is needed for what is to come. And we will let him speak on that. But instead we will speak to you directly. When he is at the table, pretend like he doesn't exist. Pretend like he is at work. You want to go to your husband to discuss this, but he is not home.
Okay. I see. Even after 5 o'clock, while I'm cooking, just make decisions, and
Because he is not here. He is at work.
and even when he's working late, he's at work.
For the time being, yes.
Okay.
He has a plan to make it easier on his time and restraints in fulfilling orders and replacing stock. He will continue to push with that. His delays in starting the orders and other events interrupting, it takes a great deal of energy, and this is what we want to speak with you about. It takes a great deal of energy to sit at the table for the time that he does and focus to push out the product. So now let us put this on you. Imagine you go out for an event. Let us use the example of Repticon. And you spend the day there. Then you stop by an anime shop. Then you stop by a coffee shop. Then you stop by a taco shop. Then you drive home. And when you get here, you're expected to sign in and work 8 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Would your mind be in the same place at the same time?
Nope.
His must be. Because he doesn't have the luxury of mulling over paperwork or shifting through emails. He physically creates on the spot and must be present. And do you find it difficult when you're trying to focus on a task, not having your ego in the background screaming at you, distracting you? What about this dream? What about this tale? What about this worry? When he is sitting making jewelry, he must silence it. Did you know that?
Mm-mm.
He must silence it. The days that you see him sitting there distracted, going from phone to standing up, walking around, going back to the phone, sitting down, going back in a chair, getting up, getting something to eat. going to smoke back and forth, back and forth. It seems like it takes him forever to get his butt in the seat and get working, does it not?
Same here.
That is him preparing his mind to quiet so he can focus on the minute details of the jewelry. And he gets into that space, and in comes Happy Mansour. Guess what? Give me your attention. And he has to re-prep.
So those distractions aren't him distracting or not working, it's him preparing for work.
Because his mind is too loud at that time.
I didn't know. I thought it was him just taking a break from work, which is why I will come in.
And if he is taking a break and away from the table, then by all means, do you have a second? You know he always gives. But there are times you come into the room and you see him working and you start talking and he gives you a look like he's about to rip off your face. And you can feel the energetic push. Get away. That is what that is. He's trying to maintain the focus. And so, when he is at the table, he is not present. When he is preparing for the day, do not assume he has free time. Because every action he takes, everything is regimented. For example, he got up today. You two had your moment. His energy went askew. So he must recall that scattered energy and put it back into focus. Then there was the bird, all day long. Hey, 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 hey. Did you know he was at the point of thinking of bringing it to a rescue center?
I felt that. And to be fair, this morning I asked ahead of time. I asked for permission.
You did not say it to make you guilty.
No, the funny thing is I responded initially that way, and then I realized, no, it's interesting because there, again, is my response.
And let us finish what you were saying, and you'll understand the point of why we brought that up.
But I could sense about the bird today with him. I could sense it.
And then he realized it's not doing nothing more than an adolescent would. Ma, 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 ma. That is not a reason to bring the kid to a foster home. The parent does not get off so easily. They may think about it, but it's not a reason. It is the parent growing up. And so he smiled.
That's amazing. That is amazing.
And then he got to work. And everything that was backlogged is now on the table. And he completed another order on top of. And he's excited because he could see the end of the road where he could start production. And he removed blockages that he knew would sabotage the effort. And now, he allows us to come through to do this. What hasn't he done?
Vegged out.
Taking any time for himself. And what time is it?
It's 10:06.
He should be in bed.
We both should be in bed.
But when he's done, he's going to take the time for himself to do something for him, even though he's tired, because it's the only time left during the day. Imagine that. And living that day in and day out. How would you withstand it? Why silence?
Oh, I thought it was a rhetorical question.
No.
How can you? I can't.
Exactly. And this is what he is doing to make sure the business is successful, so that both of you have what you need. So what can you do to help him? Be mindful of his time. And that sounds like an accusation. We don't mean it that way. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No. I mean, aside from, well, I mean, I'll call it out. This doesn't have to be the YouTube video, but like, just I have, and I know it's not an accusation. I have been mindful of his time. Is that just all I have to do, or I have not been mindful of his time, or I'm not mindful enough?
And this is where it comes into play that for the two of you, working in the same house is not a good thing.
Well, I can be even more mindful of his time if that's really all that's needed.
And that is all that's needed.
Okay.
There is interactions between the two of you that is required, necessary, must be. Schedule the time. Make sure it happens. But not as if you have all the free time in the world. We can do this now and catch everything up later. Later is him staying up to 12 to have free time. Does that make sense?
It does, yeah.
Okay.
Should we, since it's past 10 o'clock, do we want to do the second part on another recording, or do we want to continue on with fear?
Let us continue on.
Okay.
So let us begin fear.
All right, let me start this recording. All right.
Okay.
Emotional body 6-2, fear.
So, discussing the nature of fear. And this will not take long like the first lesson. It is our intent to come in without all the bells and whistles and the intense energy we usually come in. We're working with the fact that he has less energy to hold at the moment, and hence the lighter vibration, the ease of the discussion. So, we touched on this in the first part. Now we wish to expand on it, which is understanding fear. And we say, Mansoor, what are you afraid of? Give us an example.
Being found out
Being found out.
with everything. Being found out with what I'm eating. Being found out with what I'm doing behind closed doors in the bedroom. Being found out with how little effort certain things take me. If that makes sense.
Good.
That constant fear behind of being found out.
Being seen truthfully.
Yes.
Important clarification.
Mm-hmm.
And in this, the world currently looks at fear. I'm afraid of dogs. I'm afraid of spiders. I'm afraid of being alone. And the fear moves through all of the illusions. So what must you change in order to solve the fear? The illusion.
You gotta switch the illusions around.
And we have said before, you cannot solve separation with separation. It only leads to more separation, which is why when you push on the illusion, it pops up on the other side. It just transfers the energy someplace else. It doesn't smooth the cloth. It bunches somewhere else, and you have a new problem, because the essence is that you're using separation to solve separation, which equals separation, which is the anti-formula we taught in Finding the Inner Self. The formula we discussed was God plus God equals God. We have a duality, a mirror, based on perception. And so our point is that when it comes to fear, you don't really know what you're afraid of. And so the thoughts and emotions give you something, create a physical construct to make it valid. And that does not mean, for example, when someone is bungee jumping and on the edge of the platform and you are afraid to jump and you are filled with fear and adrenaline, that is a body response that basically equates to, stupid, what are you doing to me?
Mm.
Fight or flight reaction. It is the body trying to self-preserve. And there are those among you who particularly seek such experiences to push past it, because they love that they can conquer fear. But in reality, when you discuss fear, you don't really know what fear is. You don't really know what you're afraid of. You have catchphrase answers. Well, fear restricts my energy. Yes, that's true. But what is fear? Well, it restricts my energy. Yes, we said that was true. But what is fear? And no one knows. Mansoor, what is fear?
Not love. I can't tell you. It's an icky feeling.
And here is our point. How old are you?
36.
So you were 36 years old. There is no right or wrong answer. We're not looking for you to give us a definitive one, and we, the professors, are sitting here grading your performance. in your best capable of understanding of 36 years of experience,
what is fear?
what is fear?
So the experience of fear is an icky feeling of like a void of separation, of the unknown and having to face an unknown. It's like that it's just a weird, nasty feeling. But from everything that we've been talking about, and just from this experience recently and everything, fear is lack of it's a lack of connection is an aspect of it. I don't know how to define it other than there's like this lack of connection.
And in this, we were going to critique of it. We liked it better when you said icky feeling.
It's definitely an icky. It's an experience. It's experience as an icky feeling. Like it really is. But like, as far as what it is, I don't know. Other than like, it feels like I'm separated.
And that is a good answer. But icky feeling was closer to your truth of what you feel, what your experience with it is.
Yeah.
Because that's when we felt your energy the most. Now, the rest of it was an intellectual musing and understanding of it. We're not saying you weren't correct, but it was based on an intellectual answer. And so the teachings we gave previously now made good coffee conversation.
Oh, of course. Yeah, I can talk to someone about it. And it may have like some light bulbs go off for them and myself, but no, yeah, icky feeling, you're right. Energetically, you felt it. It felt like.
And while the words was something a child would use, it was more accurate a description of harmonizing with the state of being of what it is for you, because we can feel the truth of it. So there's that. But our point in asking the question was not to embarrass you, because each who would be asked that question would do either or. Give a undefined answer like icky and follow it up with an intellectual answer of I think. But what is not happening here is no. Now watch. How much of your day is filled with fear, Mansoor?
I'd say about between about 50%, 40 to 50%.
Okay. We would actually say it's probably higher.
Okay.
But needs to come into conscious awareness of the subtlety of it. But we will accept the 50.
Let's go 75%.
No, let's stick with 50.
All right.
It will do the lesson good. So 50% of your day is based on fear, and you're 38 years old. And
36.
the best that you can come up with it, and imagine this room, 50% of it is fear. 50%. That's half the room. Half the room is fear. And the best description for it is icky. Do you see the absurdity of it?
Yeah, yep.
And why? Because we don't look at that. When it comes up, we do 10 Hail Marys full of grace. When it comes up, we do 10 positive affirmations. When it comes up, we call the therapist and go sit on their couch. Although in modern times, turn on the video monitor. You do everything you can to rewrite the reality over it. And so, in short, 50% of this room is fear, but you only focus on the other 50%, which has pretty pictures, brightly colored.
But it's looming in the background. It doesn't. That's the thing. It's like I said, 50%. And when you talk about the subtleties, that's the other thing I'm noticing with the agreement. It's even if it's like 1%, it's there.
Always.
It's there, and it's that constant. Like I say, 50%, because even if I'm not giving it conscious awareness, if I'm really honest with myself, it's running in the background. The hum in the background of fear.
That's the point.
Icky feeling.
Of putting 50% of this room you see before you as fear. It is always there, always in perception. And you spend much energy. But look at the pretty picture. Notice the bright colors. But you don't have any understanding of that which has so much control over you. Besides icky. And we apologize for teasing.
I love it. No, but it's actually really powerful because I think it's a child's word, but you know, speaking, I think it was the last lesson or the lesson before, talking about the ego, we still develop it like 6, 7, 8 years old. So I think it's a perfect word because you learn it at such a young age. And when you say the word icky, it captures that feeling so perfectly. So yeah, it's great to make fun of it, but I think it's really cool to see that it's a kid's word, but it captures it so much more purely than the intellectual stuff I spewed out.
And exactly, it captures it perfectly. But there's also a point to it. It's where fear began.
With the ego, right? With the whole sense of separation.
So who else would describe it except, as you would call, the inner child? Because that's where it began. Of course it would be called icky. The adult doesn't deal with fear. They cope with fear and make best that they can and focus on the pretty pictures and not 50% of the room. Go to the New Age section at Barnes & Noble's and look at the books. How many focus on abundance creation?
Mm-hmm.
How many focus on a study of fear? Well, there's no money in that. Who would want to buy that? Do you see our point?
Yep.
And yet, how much of your world is built on fear?
Well, it's it's funny because what sells the abundance books is fear.
Fear of lack of abundance. And so we
fear
focus,
of not enough.
And so we present a pretty picture. You can be rich. You can create this. And you can believe this to buy my book, so I am abundant. Thank you for buying it.
Mm-hmm.
But what's not dealt with is the fear. And if it is talked about, it's in very limited ways. And we will use, for example, the Reiki book that you study from. We will not mention the name because we do not wish to cause any finger pointing. But they did address fear in one of the chapters, did they not? About setting up a Reiki business. And said that if you have any reactions to these statements, and they listed, we believe, 3 of abundance and Reiki as a business, then you have blockages and need to remove them before moving forward. Did they tell you how?
Just get the dolly out of the...
Did they describe what that is?
Get the dolly out of the garage and just remove them.
Right. Good luck with that. You're on your own. And it sets the premise. Well, if you can't be abundant, it's because you have this issue. You need to work it out. How do you work it out? You do. But when you do, come back and we can teach you how to be successful. Well, if you didn't have fear, what would you need a book on learning to be successful?
Mm-hmm.
Abundance would flow naturally. See our point?
Yep.
But buy our book. And so, our point with this is that you don't know what fear is. Where does it stem from? What causes it? Is it like the pot of water? Are you focusing on just the top, but not understanding what's driving the reaction to be afraid? And that is what we will rest this series upon, is that explanation, not the machinations of the mind of what you're afraid of. It's like trying to find an elusive ghost. Just when you think you see it, it pops up behind you, boo, and you're filled with fear. Why? I don't know, I just feel icky. That is not good enough. Not good enough at all. Fear is elusive. Fear remains outside the realm of perceptions. It colors and taints not just the emotions, but the thoughts.
That's what makes a great horror movie, is that you don't actually see the bad person, the monster, the creature, the alien. Alien is a phenomenal horror movie because you never really see the alien till the very, very end. But even then, it's all just, you create it yourself. It's just all in the periphery. And that's what it feels like, running in the background constantly.
Exactly. And we would describe it this way for food lovers. You are eating lasagna. Well, you know there is the pasta. You know there are the cheeses. You also know there's the sauce. And then there's the accessory depending on how someone fills in. Is that sausage? Is that meat? Is it both? But then, any good cook understands adding in the spice of flavor. What is that flavor? It's not that it goes ahead and directly accentuates what is physically there in what you know to be lasagna. It's that it adds that extra something that makes you wonder, that tantalizes the taste buds. What is that? Oh, it's so good. And what is so good? The mystery of what it is. You're familiar with the other tastes. You're familiar with the other flavors. But it's that one that you're not. One that is a mystery. one that tantalizes you. Every good chef knows it's that ultimate flavor that makes a dish exceptional.
And they're not talking about MSG.
No. Although there was a time that would be true of it. So, our point with this is that as fear, it adds an extra flavor in thoughts and emotions. And fear is listed as an emotion, but it is actually an energy. We want you to stop thinking about it as an emotion and start thinking about it as a frequency. And now, here is why. We go back to the basis that we were talking about, the foundation. What causes the disruptions of the mind, the machinations of maybe, could be, should be, what if, all directed towards the future to fix. The ego organizing all of that to give you hope, to have faith just over that hill. Here's a task list, get this done and you'll be fine. It organizes all of that to make it copable by giving you a task list of what you need to change, what you need to do, and when you need to do it by. And then you'll be happy. And you get there. Are you happy? No. You have the same problem. I have a new list. It's just over there. Get this done and then resolve that. Same game. Henry the Eighth I am. Second verse, same as the first. And you've been singing the same song since. But what the ego is organizing for you, keeping you within a set vibration of comfortability, comfortable pain, because you know it. Not the uncomfortable pain of not knowing it and having to learn it. It is doing everything it can in its eyes to keep you functioning and keep you whole. Do you see it?
Yeah.
Now.
And is fear a very good invisible fence to keep you within those bounds?
No.
Okay.
It is an energetic reaction, not an emotion. But we will get there. Mm-hmm. Now, with the description that we just gave, it's important to bring your attention to a fact. We did not blame the ego for making the mess. We said it organized it and creates task lists and gives you the word hope and faith, a direction in the future and a task list to get there. You'll be fine. It organizes the mess We did not say it creates the mess. You blame it for it. You view the ego as your enemy. If the ego wasn't there, you wouldn't have the mess. If the ego wasn't there, there'd be nothing organizing the mess. You'd have no hope, no faith. It would not come into comprehensive form that you can cope with suggestions of what to physically do to resolve it. Can you imagine that? And for all of that service, you spit it in the face. You are my enemy. You hurt me. You block me. You hold the keys to my liberation. Without here, it would be a better world. Really? Are you sure? At a moment's whim that you tell it, in true moment of creation, that it is no longer serving you and is in the way, it acquiesces and dies and gets born again. Because it hates you that much. Because it needs your fear of it to survive. Are you sure? Because it's feeding off your mind like an outside alien. Are you sure? It doesn't get much respect. But then again, we come back to the expression. Every fight you have with yourself, you lose. The ego is part of your mind. It is not your enemy, and you are not subservient to it. Although you create the image of it, you create the relationship, because where is the seat of power?
In the observer self.
Which is you. Which is you. So if the ego is not the source of the disruption, the mess that it constantly organizes, day in, day out, it doesn't even get to sleep. It has to maintain awareness of that as well. Because when you wake up from a disturbing dream, it is there to greet you and hug you and give you a list and say, that way. Just over there. Complete this list. It never gets to rest. So if the ego is not the source of the mess, what is? If all of the outside mess is due to fear, where does it emanate from? And this we go back to your misunderstanding of how to connect and what it means. Connection for you is harmonizing with the energy before you. And what we're going to say is controversial, but as always, we'll give physical examples. Connection to you is lowering your energy, not raising it. Period. Here is our proof. We have used you as an example. Briefly, but it will do. When we were explaining comfortable pain, and you challenged us. Are you sure you mean to use the word comfortable? And we smiled gleefully and said, oh yes, this was the word we meant to use. And then gave you an explanation of how that works. You are comfortable with someone challenging your worth, your intellect, your skills. You roll your eyes and say, here we go again. But you know what's going to happen next. You know how to deal with it. You know how to cope with it. But the shock on your face when we said for the next 7 bosses, they're going to come with you and say, the problem with you is your skin tone. What do? How do you handle that? What coping mechanisms do you have for this? Did you pay all that money with a therapist to help you with that one? Or will you have to reinvest and go back again? And you saw our point. The repetitiveness that you love to call, throw the word around of karma as an answer is a choice of vibrating within a certain frequency of a pain that you understand and know. Then we brought up a new job. This could be 40,000 more. And listed out many physical benefits of the change, did we not?
Mm-hmm.
And immediately the ego was there to say, uh-oh, you're drifting into a new energy. Wow. And gave several reasons why it was not going to happen, or why you should doubt it, why you should doubt yourself. With us so far?
Yep.
Now, if it was possible to vibrate at a higher frequency, and it was just as easy for you as lowering your frequency, then why have you had not more experiences with people that actually raised it, challenged you to be more, challenged you to do more, brought you out of your comfortable zone, your comfortable pain, and into new experiences? Why the loop? There's a whole world out there. And you've met it. You've seen people that have different experiences. You've seen people that have more professionalism, more pay, more respect, an easier workplace, treated with dignity. Whether that be at work, relationships, friendships, families. So why do we find you in the same loop, constantly lowering your energy? Where's all the times you raised it and became something more? And you've had your moments, of course. We're not going to take away your growth. Certainly not. But an overall trend and pattern, which are you more comfortable doing, Mansoor, Dragon's Bane Regier? Raising your energy or lowering it? What does the patterns of your life say?
Yeah.
Do you see it?
I can't not see it.
Well then, excuse us a moment. Okay, continuing. So,
you heard me debating that point again today on my walk. I was debating that very point that you brought up.
What a coincidence.
Yeah.
And so, we go back to that original point. of connection and what you think it is. In order to gain attention, you must lower your frequency than that which is before you, not raise it. Lower it. And what does your world teach, especially in business, for those, as you would call it, dare to step out of their line or dare to step out of their place? What happens to someone that sees a clearer way of doing things and says it in public in a workplace?
Well, you get ignored or reprimanded or killed, fired.
And so at that point, attention, they get negative attention instead of approval. Your world is built upon such principles. You celebrate those who succeed in becoming more. You make them legends. You give them powers. You make them gods among your own people. And then go back to lowering yourself and everyone else around you. Remember your place. Remember your place. But if someone can rise above that, you see them as all that is. How do you accept such ironies that are apparently clear? We did not say anything that was a great mystery here, did we?
Mm-mm.
You know this.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean when you translate it to energy and take the physicality out of it? Because you can't just use the excuse the world is insane. It's a state of being. And as a state of being, you lower your energy to gain attention and approval. For what? What is the motive? Connection. And now we go back to the great truth. And forgive us, we forget whether it was this part of the meeting or the last part of the meeting. No, it was this part. We asked you, what are you afraid of? And you answered that I will be found out. And we clarified and said, seen truly? And you said yes. And we said an important clarification. Back to the child. You learned through connection to lie. In the first set of meetings, we said the statement to you, you lie all the time. You're lying to us now. You lie to each other. Do you understand that statement deeper now?
Yes.
You never did ask us, what am I lying about?
I never had to, because as I listened to the lessons, I'm like, oh, lie, 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 lie. And as I noticed my interactions, I'm like, oh, I'm really bad at lying. Like, oh, hell no, I'm a great liar. I'm a fantastic liar.
You are, mostly to yourself.
Mostly to myself.
Allow us to turn on the light to see what you are looking at. What you are lying about is who and what you are. And therein creates the masks, the mannequin, the purpose of it. is to trick yourself and everyone else for the purpose of attention and approval. It is its only purpose. So you can spend your lifetimes working out the issue with the mannequin for money. You need to have money and dress a certain way because to not have that makes you uncomfortable. That's not the issue. That's the reaction. And you don't even know why you're doing it. You lie because of the way you perceive connection. And you believe in order to be connected, you must lie. You must lower your vibration to whoever's before you. You must be subservient to them, not a threat, to make them like you. And so your state of being is a lie. That is the illusion. And then you come to us and ask, why do I feel worthless? Indeed. You don't respect yourself. You don't love yourself. You don't accept yourself. And you built your state of being based on a lie. Why would you? Why would you? And you know this to be true. And because of this, you know no one else will truly accept you and are giving you the attention for the false reason, even when they're giving you the attention for the right reason. You still don't believe it. And why? Because you know you're lying. All of it is a lie. Because you misperceived what connection is. That is the stove that transmits the heat. Period. None of this up here is going to solve that. Because that's not the issue. That's the water boiling. The resolution of fear is understanding connection. And the first part is, you don't understand it. You don't know its purpose. And you were taught wrong. You were taught wrong. Your parents are not to blame. They were taught wrong too. If you had a child, you would teach it wrong. Because it's what you know. But luckily, there's a part of your mind that does know. 15 minutes in the morning, 15 minutes at night. And allow it to show you the truth. And it is not another being. Let us make this clear, because it sets the foundation for true will. It is not the grace of the divine mind coming through and changing everything. You are not a puppet on its strings. It requires an alignment of all three in agreement. The Holy Trinity, as above, so below. The Father, the Son, the Holy Ghost. It is an alignment of all three. And the seat of power where free will is enacted, is here. The ego will acquiesce because it is not here to harm, it's here to protect. The divine mind will only remind you of what is. The only thing it can share is what's already been given by taking the mass of mess, the emotions and thoughts, and transforming them, the good and the bad, to remove the attachments, not the memories, the attachments to them, and changing them from unconnected to connected.